going to do that. Okay, so welcome to the 2026 NRHC conference prep session. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Zachary Idala. I am the honors coordinator at Bloomfield College of Montclair State University, and I'm also the vice president of NRHC, where I just finished up a 3-year cycle through the vice presidency, through the presidency, and I loved it so much that I'm happy to start again with that process. And we also have Dr. Tanya Radford with us. And she'll
I
introduce
am.
herself, please.
I can jump in there. I'm from
Yeah.
Dominican University, New York, where I am the co-director of the honors program, and I am also the web coordinator for the NRHC.
Awesome. So welcome. All we want to do tonight is show you the conference website, tell you a little bit about the proposal preparation and submission process, talk to you a little bit about the different presentation formats that you can submit for, walk you through the disciplinary tracks that you can propose to, and then do a quick workshop showing you how the call for proposal portal works, in case you haven't done that before. And that should be enough. If at any time you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat, and we'll try to address them as we go through. How does that sound? Sounds good to just me. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead. There we go. Uh, I know the Zoom memory doesn't go away, but let me take a look and let's see. So now you should see my screen being shared with you. What you see here is the Northeast Regional Honors Council website. And what you're going to do is, if you're interested in the conference, go ahead and click on this conference link here. And if you scroll down, you probably know most of this stuff, and a lot of it may not be super relevant to you in terms of like how much it costs or whatever. But just so you know what you're signing up for, the 2026 conference is going to be on Thursday, March 26th to Sunday, March 29th in New Haven, Connecticut. The theme for this year's conference is Haven of Honors, in honor of New Haven. And you can read the conference theme, which I won't read to you here, but if you click on the link for conference theme, it'll take you and you can read more about it. You may use some of that information or find some of that information useful when putting together your proposal. But if you're interested more in how the conference is going to run, let's talk a little bit about the different presentation formats that your submission can take and the different disciplinary tracks that you can submit to. So under the conference theme here, if you hover over this menu, when it pops down, you'll see presentation formats and tracks. When you click there, it'll take you to this link, and it has hyperlinks to different parts in the page, but we'll just scroll right through. So for NRHC, for those of you that haven't gone before, there are a number of different presentation formats that your proposal can propose to be part of. Well, first are what we call academic panel presentations. These are the more traditional academic talks. You have between 10 and 12 minutes to walk people through your research findings. Usually or your project, this is usually accompanied by slides, PowerPoint slides, but that's not necessarily the case. You can also propose to give a poster. For those of you that haven't been to a conference, posters are a little bit less of a formal enterprise than, say, a panel talk. A poster is you print out the entirety of the narrative you want to talk about, your project, on a very large piece of paper, usually from Staples, or if your campus has a printing capability that they can do it. You'll print out a large 48-inch by 36-inch poster paper with all the aspects of your project visually represented there. And the idea is all of those posters are going to be set up at the same time in a very large room throughout the conference, and people sort of walk through the entire poster space. And when they stop by your poster, you have sort of a 30-second to 1-minute overview, what you might call an elevator pitch, where they say, tell me about your project. And you say, well, let me tell you about my project. Then you go through the whole project, right? And that's really supposed to be more of a conversational type presentation where you're giving your overall talk, but it's not super long or super detailed. And then you engage in conversation back and forth with whoever stopped by your poster. Um, Sometimes those can be for projects that are fully formed, but often posters can also be for projects that only have, one aspect of it complete, and you're looking for some kind of feedback on the rest of it. But that's really up to you and your mentor and your honors director to discuss to see what format makes the most sense for you. We also have roundtable presentations. Roundtable presentations are similar to posters in that they are less formal. Um, and they're really intended to be projects that invite conversation around a very specific topic where, or you have done something or have some ideas about some things and you want to get input from a select group of interested people. So the way it would work is typically what will happen is several, maybe 5 to 7 different roundtable presentations will be going on at the same time. You'll bring whatever materials you want, handouts, media that you want to share, whatever it may be. You walk people through it. You have sort of pointed questions that you have generated in advance to stimulate discussion about your particular topic. And that's, again, generally a little bit less formal. Sometimes it's seeking active input in terms of ideas from folks that may be sitting at your table. We also have an idea exchange. Idea exchange are a format where you have very fast-paced um, projects where you have a lot of swag that you might want to hand out or talk about something co-curricular that your honors program is doing, where you want to just say, hey, we do this community outreach thing, and here's some swag from that institution, and here's some swag from us, and let's tell you about the community engagement we're doing in our honors program, or let me tell you about the food drive we've done, or let me tell you about the mentoring program that we're doing, or something like that, where you want to give something generally close to the honors world, but it doesn't have to be, where you want to sort of just, give people a very quick overview about something really interesting or cool that you're doing in your honors program or on your campus. Um, if you are doing a project or working in a discipline that lends itself to performances, you may consider doing the Performing Arts and Film Showcase. The Performing Arts and Film Showcase allows you to present the performance of your project, whether it be a documentary film that you've put together. It can be spoken word, poetry, it can be acting, it can be whatever in that sort of vein. The idea of the Performing Arts and Film Showcase, however, is not about the academics behind it. That would be more like the panel presentation or a poster where you're talking about here were my influences, or here's how I did research for this particular piece, or here's the technical aspects of how I produced this video. That's sort of the academic content side that you may want to do for a talk or an academic panel or a poster. This Performing Arts and Film Showcase, its purpose is for you to actually give the final product or the final version of what it is you've put together, right? And so if you're interested in doing that, you may consider doing the Performing Arts and Film Showcase. You don't have to worry about the professional development stuff. That's for honors professionals. Now, once you've decided what sort of format your project should take or what you propose to do in terms of the type of project it is, you also have to decide, well, what discipline does it belong to? And so when you do the call for proposals on the portal, which we'll show you in just a little bit, you have to decide where it fits. And so we set things up in 2 different disciplinary tracks. So we have the arts. Again, this would be for the Performing Arts and Film Showcase, but it can also be for the more academically content side if you want to present as a talk or a poster or even a roundtable. Would be the arts. We also have a disciplinary track in business, economics, and technology. So if you're doing work in economics or finance or business, it might belong there. We also do education, history, politics, and culture, honors education and practices, language, lit, and philosophy, media studies and communication arts, natural sciences, mathematics and allied health, and the social sciences, which we sort of throw everything that is not a hard science into social sciences. So whether it's sociology, anthropology, psychology, archaeology, geography, and jurisprudence. So it's sort of like a catch-all for everything that is not biology, chemistry, or physics. And at the very bottom here, you get a sense of how people who are doing the review of your proposal will evaluate it. So your proposal, when you put it together and you submit it, does get evaluated by experts. And if you go back up, you can see I'm one of the reviewers for the social and behavioral sciences. We always have at least two people reviewing the proposals to make sure they meet, academic standards. And we use this rubric where we look for in your proposal the following attributes. We're looking for context and background. We're looking for clarity of purpose. Do you have a clear purpose? Like what is the reason that I'm reading this proposal in the first place? Like what was the point of the project? The degree to which the idea that you are proposing is creative, and then of course everyone's favorite, word usage and grammar. And those are what we look at to determine whether or not to accept a proposal. Does anybody have any questions? I know I went through a lot of that pretty quickly. Now might be a good time to pause and take on any questions that you might have before Tanya gives you a little bit of input on how to write up the proposal, and then go through the CFP platform. Any questions out there?
I have one quick comment before we
Oh yeah,
take Anna's
please.
question, and then
Yeah,
I
sure.
also want to repeat a question that Jawad put into the chat. So
Sure.
when thinking about the format, if you feel like a couple of different formats might be appropriate for you and you're not quite sure which one, I recommend that you talk to your honors director or your project mentor. They've probably had experience with most of these formats, and they can help you to think about which one would best meet your needs and which one will work out best for you. So ask for
Yeah,
advice. We're happy to individually talk to you about that and make a recommendation, but I think that those people on your campus who are familiar with your work might be your best bet. The second
of
thing
course. Oh,
is
go ahead.
in is when you're thinking, did you want to add something to that?
I was, but you can go ahead and finish, and then I'll come
Okay.
back to it.
When you're thinking about the second category, what do we call that now, Zach?
Disciplinary
IT,
track.
the disciplinary track. Um, that's roughly affiliated with disciplines in the university. I recommend that you read through those. And then, just so you know, we use those as broad categories to start thinking about how to, for example, in panels, what proposals or presentations to put together. So it helps us with a beginning sort. But if we really think that if you submit in, say, the business category, but you're talking about a literary text and economic issues, we might actually decide to put you with a panel in which other people are talking about literature where themes are overlapping. So it's not, don't worry too much about choosing the disciplinary home. I think what you should do is think about, what does my research focus on? And then use that topic area to choose what feels like the best disciplinary track in the list.
Yeah, Tanya's absolutely right. Thank you, Tanya. You said exactly what I was going to say, so that's good.
Teamwork.
Teamwork.
Okay.
Oh,
So
I
we
saw there
had
was a
one
hand.
person with the
Okay,
hand raised. Let's get that question, and then I'll read the one from Jawad.
sure.
Sorry, I believe you're referring to me with the raised hand. Thank you so much. So I'm Dr. Anna Egbert. I'm an incoming honors program director from St. Joseph's University. So I'm joining today's session just to guide my students a little bit better because I'm not too familiar with this conference just yet, but I
Sure.
hope to get more experience in the upcoming years. So a couple of my students are looking to submit their abstracts or proposals, if you will, and some of them perform literature reviews. Some other
Hmm.
students have their data collected. Some other students have their proposal ready, but not data collected just yet, but they will have it by the conference. do you have any recommendations for which format would be more suitable for each of those, or is it up to discretion of what breadth or depth does the project stand for?
What do you think? Do you want to take that, Tanya, or I can take a
Sure.
stab at it?
I can start out and then you
Sure.
can lob in some stuff. And also, you're welcome to disagree because I think the answer to this question could go in a number of ways.
For sure.
From past experience, student presenters are often presenting from different phases in their research. Sometimes they're coming to talk about a project that they've just designed and just started to do data gathering, and they have not yet fully analyzed, right? So, in that case, and I don't think that it is necessarily that there is necessarily a single presentation format that fits for that. I might recommend a poster where you can more easily lay out some of the plans that you have for further research, but you could also do that in an academic panel presentation or even a roundtable. So I think again, you want to think about the goals that you have, like how it is you want to engage with your audience, and that will be the better guide. Did I
Yeah.
miss part of that
No,
question?
that, oh,
Go ahead.
no, I completely agree. I think, a lot of it is you'd start by asking, what do I want my audience to walk away with once they have interacted in whatever fashion with my work? And I would agree with Tanya that generally, and this is very generally, projects that maybe less well developed or not complete, lend themselves to the poster format or maybe to the roundtable format. However, we have seen and we do accept plenty of academic panel presentations that are literature reviews. And so it does and can happen. Really, I think, you know, that's a conversation that students should be having with their mentor, and because a lot of that might be discipline specific too, right? In the way biological sciences might treat, a project in different stages of development may be different than say how history might. I don't know because I'm not either of those things. Well, I'm a biologist, but anyway. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to the discretion of what you're submitting and what you want people to get out of it. But there's no hard and fast rule. I generally tell my students if their project is still in development or less well developed, where they're still in like the literature's phase, I usually push them towards, a roundtable, depending on the topic, or push them towards a poster. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You can have a fully completed project that you want to present as a poster because you think it makes more sense to do it that way. You're just more comfortable in that format. It really is pretty at your discretion. And the last thing I'll say about this is that sometimes we will get proposals where we read it and they wanted to do a panel presentation or they wanted to do a poster. And as reviewers, we feel that it may be better suited for a different format. And that's something that we do on a one-on-one, one case-by-case basis where we would reach out to whoever submitted that proposal and say, hey, we read it. We really think it would be better suited as a poster. What do you think? Right. And it's a conversation, right? It's not like if you don't say yes to us, then you're out. Like, it's not like that. We try to have dialogue and bring it up. And also sometimes people make mistakes. Like we've had people submit posters where they're like, oh crap, I thought it was the Performing Arts and Film Showcase. Oops. And we'll read that and say, this doesn't make sense. You're not performing a documentary at the poster session, so it's a two-way street and we try to work with people. Our goal is to make sure that once you're like what we're accepting is the best format and form for the project, based on what we're reading about it. Does that make sense?
I think so,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, thank you
Okay.
so much. It
Of
seems actually
course.
very innovative and flexible. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We try to do that.
There's
For
kind
sure.
of a related question in the chat about the roundtable format. So in a roundtable, um, correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, but they
Mhm.
are like they are like an academic panel presentation in that there are multiple people there are multiple people participating, but each group is at a separate table. And what happens in the session is people decide where they're going to start, right? They go to a table to sit down with a topic area that they're interested in. There's a brief presentation by the proposers, the people who are doing the research, but then they're really trying to move quickly from providing background and information to engaging a discussion with the other people in the roundtable. So it's much more conversation focused. Panel presentation, most often in my experience, someone is reading or delivering a 10 to 12-minute presentation, and then there's time for comments, questions after that presentation is done. But it's not usually the case that you're interrupted. But in a roundtable, you might be because somebody might want to ask a question, and that's more conducive in that format.
I saw
So
Jawad's
it's not that
questions.
they're going one by
Oh,
one, they're
sorry.
in separate places. All right, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Jawad, I see. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but what I'm reading here is you have questions about the same project being sort of split up and talked about by two people in different formats. Generally, the answer to that is no. If you are working on the same project as someone else, what we would do is what you can do, and we'll show you that when we do the CFP, is that you can have co-presenters on the same project. So if you want to, you have to decide what format you want it to be in, but ultimately you can have you can have co-presenters for a poster, you can have co-presenters for a panel, but we generally wouldn't accept the same project being submitted twice if it's exactly the same project. If you're talking about different aspects of the same like general project, like I had this research question and I analyzed the data this way, and then, out of the same laboratory or same sort of, overall context for a research project, someone is doing a slightly different question or has a slightly different set of data that they want to present, that would be fine. But generally, if it's the exact same project, you're going to be co-presenters and you're going to have to choose the format that you want to be in.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And then you're welcome. And then I see Carrie Ann.
Hi.
Hi. So you're talking
Hi.
about urban planning. What's up?
Yeah, actually I had a separate question. I think you answered it like I'm gonna do social, but
Okay.
I had a question about how strictly we should be adhering to the theme of the conference. I think my topic is like tangentially related, but maybe
Yeah,
not nail on the head.
sure.
Fill
We
that one?
encourage, what's that?
You want me to fill that one?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I think so. First of all, we don't want any student to not submit to our conference because they're like, well, the theme is not really what I'm doing. I'm focusing on these very tiny organisms and how they release X toxin, and how in the world am I going to talk about the Haven of Honors? So that's not an issue. But very often, when you're working on your abstract or your proposal, you'll sort of realize that there is a way in which you can tweak it a little bit to kind of chime in. It's not required, but it can be kind of fun actually. So a little
Sure,
creative with it. Use even some of the language or a particular concept, and then finally, if it doesn't fit, just send us your
exactly.
proposal.
Exactly. You don't want to fit a square peg into a round hole. Like if you can't find a way to get C. elegans gene expression into Haven of Honor, that's fine. Like I get it. But if you can make it work, then make it, that's great. We'd like to see the attempt be made. I'll tell you just a personal anecdote. When I was in grad school, I was doing posters or talks or whatever. And it wasn't until I was like I can't believe I'm going to admit this publicly. I didn't realize that professional conferences even had themes, right? It was never a conversation that I had with my doctoral advisor, like, make sure when you do your proposal to hit the theme of the conference. It was just like, here's what your project is about. You're submitting it as a talk or a poster or whatever. So don't get too caught up in worrying that you're hitting the theme. I think it's really nice because it does provide a cohesive, experience for the entire conference because we're going to have speakers and um, destinations in the city that sort of speak to the theme. And so the conference experience is curated around the theme. But for your individual project, if it does not fit and you can't find a way to make it fit, don't feel pressured to do that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions that I missed or that we've missed?
There was one question, one hand up from Campbell. I'm not sure if that participant got their question answered.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I clicked a button when I accidentally left.
Oh, okay.
Not a problem.
No problem.
Thank you, though. Sorry.
Sure.
I
And
am
then I
an absolute
see
pro at clicking buttons. I don't need to.
I see another one. My project deals with how art can improve, support sustainability and culture. What category would this fall under? Um, Cool. I think you'll find that a lot of projects are multi or interdisciplinary, and that's totally normal and okay. My guess would be depending, I mean, I guess it depends on the methodology you use, how you're sort of framing the context of the project itself. To my mind, that could easily fall into the social sciences. It could fall into the natural sciences, right? If you're talking about sustainability efforts and its impact on ecology. It could also be in the arts, right? I mean, so you really have, I mean, it's really up to you to think about what makes the most sense. And like Tanya was saying before, just because you propose to be in the social sciences doesn't mean ultimately that that's where you are going to end up. That we try our best to stay within the spirit of what people propose, but things do get shuffled around depending on what other people's topics are. And so don't feel like once you've chosen something that you're sort of stuck there necessarily. Pick whichever one you think it fits the most in, and then we'll take it from there. And if anyone has individual questions about their project or where you get placed, you can always email Northeast Regional, and we can have that conversation for sure. Let's see another one.
I'm going to say one more thing about co-presenters. So we'll run through this when we go through the proposal, the call for proposals. But it is both you're welcome and encouraged if you've been doing research in a small group or with a partner to list your co-author. And then the other thing we'll ask you to do is just to be clear about which of those authors are actually coming to the conference so that we can be clear in our own conference schedule and stuff. So,
are there any other questions before we jump to how to navigate the actual portal? About anything we've talked about? Okay. Tanya, did you want to talk? Did you get a chance to talk about the? Oh, you did. Okay.
Not yet. I can talk really briefly about.
Go for it. Go for it, please.
I teach students abstract writing workshops, and writing a proposal or an abstract is another way to talk about a proposal. Can be kind of challenging because a lot of times you're talking about research that you haven't finished yet. And that's not a problem. But I just want to run through quickly the parts of a successful proposal or abstract. I think you always want to begin with a sentence or two that make it clear what is your topic area and why is it important. Giving some sense of not just the area you'll be discussing, but what subset of that area and why there is a controversy or an important problem that you want to engage in. I think that's move number one. Then usually move number two is to talk a little bit about the research that's been done on this in the past, or some of the complexities if there's a controversy or a problem, some of the different points of view that get brought to it. Again, very quickly, but kind of laying out a context for that topic area or problem. Then I think a third move that you want to make sure you make is to present some kind of a hypothesis or a description, even if it's somewhat tentative, right? Like a hypothesis isn't very often, it is an argument you're making about the meaning of things or what you think is going to happen, but you might not have those results yet. But nevertheless, some kind of a hypothesis that suggests the position you will take on this topic area. And then finally, even though you identify the kind of presentation you intend to do, I sometimes end by talking about the kind of presentation, the argument that I'm making, and that's the moment where I will often try to sneak in a reference to the theme and chime in with it, even metaphorically. So those are kind of like the parts that I regard as crucial for an abstract or proposal. Do you feel like I left anything out, Zach?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there, pretty good.
You want to keep it short. It's not multiple paragraphs. There's not introductions. The introduction really is to identify topic and why it's important, background of research, things you know about it, your hypothesis or position, and the kind of shape or what you foresee as how you will present your ideas at the conference. And I think that's pretty much the moves you got to make. One last thing I want to say about that. Abstracts, proposals are difficult to write. They're challenging. They're fun too. I actually enjoy writing them and I enjoy working with people on theirs to make them more clear. I strongly, strongly advise you to not only show it to a friend and get feedback, a person who knows nothing about your topic area should be able to understand what you're going to talk about and what position you're going to take. That's super important. So, communication is job one. And the second thing I want to strongly advise you to do is to make sure that your honors advisor and your mentor, if you have a project mentor, make sure they see it. They can give you very good advice. They have a lot of experience in writing abstracts, and they can help you to avoid potential problems of unclarity.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Lean on people. Ask for help. You won't know unless you ask, you know. So that really like the idea of asking someone, a friend, or even anyone who is not an expert, or studying that particular field. I had someone working in my office the other day who was a religion scholar and asked me to look at their thesis, and I didn't know a dang thing about it. But I asked pointed questions, and that can be pretty helpful when you have someone with a fresh set of eyes who is reasonably intelligent but may not know the ins and outs of your field, to get some feedback on. So I highly recommend that as well. Any other questions or any other comments before we walk through the portal? Not, figuratively, not literally. All right, so let's share it up again. And we'll come here. So when you go to the NRHC website, you'll see when you hit the main page, you'll notice the scrolling banner here. When you get to this one where it says CFP now open, you should see a link that says submit your proposal now. And when you click on that, it's going to take you to this page here. It'll say NRHC 2026, call for proposals. It has the open date, has the close date, the notification date, and then when registration opens. So just to walk you through the timeline, CFP is open right now. That is going to be open until the end of the day on November 17th. After that, the CFP is closed. We're not accepting any new proposals unless otherwise mentioned. And then the idea is you will hear by 12/18 whether or not your proposal has been accepted. So you'll know by December 18th whether you're in. And then you'll have some time to have the discussion with your honors director about coming to the conference. Hopefully you've had that discussion now, or will have it soon. And then registration for the conference will open in mid-January. Okay. Just as an aside, make sure that you have a discussion with your honors program director or coordinator before you register for the conference. Just make sure you're not, don't want to be billed for something you don't need to be billed for. So just pay attention to that as well. Okay, so when you scroll down, it'll sort of walk you through what we're already talking about. You will have read the conference theme by the time you get to this place, hopefully. You will have discussed and decided on a presentation format. You will have discussed and decided on the disciplinary track that you want. You've hopefully at this point written your proposal. We want it to be 300 words or less, written in an academic style that is reminiscent of the field in which you find yourself. I understand that we all know that those tones and styles can differ from discipline to discipline, but whatever is convention in your field, you can assume that's the tone and style you want to take. Then you'll complete the CFP. Okay, so if you're a new user, you will click on the join now. But since I'm and create it'll prompt. Should I do that, Tanya? Should I try to just be a new user right now, or is it easier for me to do?
Yeah, you could. Well, actually, why don't you click on the join now just so we see the next screen?
Okay, I'll show you and then I'll just sign in. So if you click on join now, it'll take you here. You have to prove that you're a human eventually. And it's going to ask you for personal details. You don't need to provide anything other than the ones that are starred. So if you don't want to tell us, where you live or what your fax number is, you can ignore those. Does anyone even know what a fax number is? First name, first name, last name, email, and your school. It is useful if you put your position, student, whatever, and then you'll create what they're calling an access key. We call a password. Create that, type it in twice, and create your account, and then you'll be a user on our portal. Okay, I'm going to come
And
back
make sure
over
that
here.
you write that access key down, your password down, because you could begin tonight your proposal and fill in the personal information and other stuff, then sort of see how the whole system works, and then go back out, work on your proposal text, your abstract, and then log back in and submit the abstract text. So, but it adds some steps if you don't write down your access key, and then you have to ask for that to get sent back and reset it and blah, blah. So just have a piece of paper, you can write it down.
For sure. And that's also a really good point. You don't have to do this all in one shot, right? You can create your username, password, you can start filling in details as you'll see in just a second, and then come log out and come back to it and finish it. Just make sure if you do it in multiple steps that you do click the submit button at the very end, so that you're not wallowing in limbo and not when wondering why you never get anything from the thing. All right, so I click log in. What happened? What did I do wrong? Oh, it doesn't like my email address. Hey now. Okay. Let me see if I can start again. Should have made sure my password worked, yeah. Oh, okay. So the user account already exists, but apparently I don't have my password right. So I did the thing that Tanya said not to do. Sorry about that. It shouldn't take very long for me to get it, but I will. But I guess this is useful because now you can see how all that stuff works. I'm going to stop sharing so I don't show you my entire inbox and violate all sorts of FERPA regulations. So give me a sec.
While Zach is doing that, does anybody have any questions?
Sorry about that.
Somebody asked in the chat about when you're writing your proposal or abstract about when you're talking about the research. Let's say you're talking about an important new treatment, and so then in the very brief lit review section, maybe a sentence or at max two, you talk a little bit about the research that's already been done. When you do that, use very simple citations. In APA, the last name and the year is going to be plenty, right? You don't need to have footnotes. In fact, it's not going to support your using footnotes. You don't have to put in a complete citation, and you should avoid quoting. Generally speaking, if something's really important and you need to put a phrase in, that's okay. You don't need to include page numbers in this kind of a document. When it's in your actual presentation, then you will want to have full citation information. But for the purpose of an abstract, keep it simple, and that's plenty.
Okay. Thank you, Tanya. We are in. Let me reshare. Said we were in, but we're not. Let's try again. There we go. Okay. Sorry, it took a second. I apologize for my delay, but now you should be able to see call for proposals. Yeah. So at the top, you should see event information, your profile, feedback if you want to give it. Here, you can edit your profile, or you can add to any of the demographic information that you chose not to have or have. Whatever, right? So I'm going to update that. And so you're ready to put a proposal together. You're going to go to click here to begin a new proposal. You should have a title, a working title in mind, right? Whatever it all happens to be. And then under presentation type, that is where you will select what format you want to present in. If you want to be a panel, you click panel, whatever. It does also give you the same descriptions that I showed you before in case you don't have them in front of you elsewhere. Then you're going to go down and click submit. And that's going to take you to a page that shows you that your project has been added, but has not yet been submitted because you have to add other information. Okay.
Quick,
So-
can I make a quick note about
Yeah,
titles?
yeah.
First of all, we did a placeholder title. You will want to come up with a title that is both, I like to say, informational and sexy, right? I like titles that give someone, just from reading the title, some idea of what the presentation is going to be about, at least topic area. And then sometimes I like to do things that are create a joke or have a resonance in some way. And you can do that pretty effectively with a two-part title with a colon in between. But make sure that your project title is descriptive enough so that if someone sees your title, they will already have an idea of whether or not they want to read the description of the presentation you're going to make and maybe come to see your presentation.
Right on. So you'll see at the top, your proposal is incomplete, which means it's incomplete. So you have to go through all these different steps. Let's start at 1 and click on 1. You have a title. This is where you will decide what track you want to be in. Let's say I want to be in Honors Ed and Practices. And then under that, where it says Proposal Abstract, is where you will type in your proposal or copy and paste it from whatever word processor you're using. Right, add that there, and then you will click continue. Once you click continue, you'll notice that because you have filled in all of the required fields in section 1, you should see a green check mark there. If you see a green check, it means all of the information that you entered has been accepted by the system. You're good to go, right? So now we need more details. Under more details, it's going to ask you for demographic information, more your class year. So if you're a sophomore, junior, senior, whatever, what kind of proposer you are. And what that means is, are you student, faculty, or staff? I'll put faculty, which doesn't make sense for this one. If you're interested in being a moderator, does anyone know what a moderator is or had? Okay. If you don't know, a moderator is someone who, during the academic panel presentations, is responsible for making sure the entire session runs smoothly. Their job is to introduce speakers, make sure everyone gets the same amount of time to speak, handle Q&A, and make sure that the entire session runs smoothly. That's their whole job. If you're interested in doing that, you can say yes. If you are not interested in doing that, you can say no. It's totally up to you. I like moderating. I think it's fun. Mostly for students, though, the thing we're really interested in is whether or not you are wanted to join our student activities committee. We have 3 student reps on the board this year. They're always looking for help to help plan the student-centered events for the conference. So if you're interested in working closely with them on site or even before, please consider joining the student activities committee. They're a great group of students, and they certainly could use your help. If you want to be considered for or are thinking about publishing your project in written form in the NRHC's undergraduate research journal Illuminate, you can indicate that here by saying that you would like more information about the Illuminate proposal process. Often when you are presenting at a conference, you have a project that you have written up in some way or to some extent. If you're interested in actually publishing it as a written work in an undergraduate research journal, that might be a good opportunity for you to do that. Once you've made those decisions and filled everything out, click continue. You'll see a red check mark under more details. And then in number 3, this is the last major step where you're going to add information about your honors director, co-presenters on the project. These are going to be people who are authors on the project and are also presenting with you at the conference and will be attending the conference. And then any co-authors that may also be on the project who are not attending the conference. It's important that we know that we have distinction, because sometimes people will have, it's very common in a lot of disciplines to have multiple authors on a project, but not everyone is necessarily going to be joining you at the conference. And so we want to make sure we have a clear distinction between who needs attribution in the conference program because they were intellectual contributors to the project, from who were intellectual contributors to the project and also are going to be presenting at the conference, right? So that's the distinction there. So you'll go down here. First thing it's going to ask for is your honors director's name. I am my own director, which is a really nice place to be in life. I highly recommend it. Put in your name and email address, etc. Show what their role is. What we mean by that is your honors director may be an author on your project. They may be a co-author. They may be a co-presenter. They may not be. This is going to be very specific to you and your project. But for me, let's say I'm just the honors director. I'm not involved in the project in any meaningful way. I don't need any attribution other than the fact that I'm the director for the honors program at my institution. Once that is done, you'll have to go in and edit their profile. You have to put in their information. Most of it's already there. But really all we're asking for is their name, address, what institution they're at, what their role on the project is, and then most importantly, whether or not they will be attending the conference. Okay. Once you know that, you click continue and scroll down. Then you should see your honors director added correctly. And if it says profile completed, it means it doesn't need any more information from you about that person. Now, let's say I have a co-author on my project or a co-presenter on my project. This button here allows you to add more people. And so you can click on that, or you can just add it right here by, actually, I'm sorry. No, you have to add it into the fields first. So I'll add Tanya here. Radford T at duny.edu. Is that right?
It's tanya.radford@duny.edu.
Oh, there you go. And let's say she's a co-presenter on my project and a co-author. So put her both there. And then I'll add her. If she's already in the system, you will say, it'll tell you, you have typed in an email address for someone who's already has a profile. They have been added to the submission. You don't need to add any more details because that person is already in the system. If it's a co-author that is not yet in the system, you'll have to do what we just did for me and flesh out the institution, first and last name, email, etc. Once that's all done, you save your honors director by clicking that button, and you are now good to go. Next thing to do is click Save Submission. And then you should get a green box that says you have completed all the tasks for your submission. Click Submit, and then you click Submit. And then you go drink a root beer, and that's it. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about navigating the CFP process, or is there something else, Tanya, that I forgot to mention that I should have, or anything that people want me to walk them through again?
I can't think of anything, but I will say that in answering questions in the chat, I said if you have more than one author, you should fill in the proposal together, and there'll be
that's a good idea.
You say you are equal authors, but actually what you want to do is say you're co-presenters. Presenters means you're going to be there on site to do the talk, do the poster or whatever. If you have, let's say you were working on a project that there were 4 students working together on it, 2 of you are going to the conference and 2 are not. You're going to want to recognize the other researchers in that project.
Yeah.
So you will list them as co-authors, not as co-presenters, right? The people who are going to be there at the conference, they're co-presenters. So if at any point, there are a lot of different terms, and for many of you, this will be the first time. So if in doubt, you'll see that there are areas where we define the terms. So check on those before you fill things in. And lastly, it's really, really important that you include when you're adding authors, the first one you do besides yourself is your honors director, because we want to, when we notify you about your proposal, we also send a notification to your honors director. So have that person's name and email, list them after you've done you.
Yes. Any other questions or thoughts about this or any of the other things that we've gone through this evening?
I think we've answered all the questions that came up in the chat. There might be a few people who have a question that they feel more comfortable asking once we end the recording and maybe more of a one-on-one. So
Sure.
we'll leave the channel open, but stop recording in just a second. But let me just say in conclusion, if you have been to this conference before, you know that it's really fun and interesting, and I know that you're going to have a terrific time. If you're worried about it, or if you're struggling with your proposal, seek help on your campus, your honors director. If they can't help you themselves to work on, they will have suggestions. So if you have concerns subsequent to this, please reach out to folks on your campus. And we're so excited to see you in New Haven.
No. Thank you very much, everyone. I will end the recording now. And if anyone has any questions that they'd prefer to pose to a smaller group, me and Tanya can hang out for a couple of minutes afterwards. But otherwise, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your evening.